Happy Monday, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the PHNX Suns podcast. I'm Lindsay. That's Gerald. That's Espo. How was your weekend, guys?
Look, Gerald made me more happy than my weekend just a second ago. You'll all eventually find out why, but he was just spectacular right before we came on air. Thank you, Gerald, for making me so giddy and happy.
You're
This
welcome.
is the most excited I've seen Espo about a piece of content in a really long time.
I remember this moment.
Gerald, you just warmed my heart. That's what I'm just going to say.
I'm glad to hear it.
Did you have a good weekend, Gerald? Did you do Barbenheimer?
I did do Barbenheimer. We got G-rateds coming out on both of those movies later this evening and tomorrow morning, so make sure to check those out. But I had a great weekend.
Okay, give us a little sneak peek. Which was better?
I mean, like, listen,
I don't want spoilers.
No
Yes.
spoils whatsoever because I
spoilers.
haven't seen either of them yet.
Right. No spoilers. I personally liked Oppenheimer better,
That's my man.
but I think Barbie is more easily accessible.
Is there true... there was a DCEU Snyderverse joke in Barbie.
There is.
All right,
yes,
then
there is.
I give it a pass. I'll be going.
It didn't get very many laughs.
I'll laugh.
but-
So that's all that matters.
Different audience, maybe not the right
Probably
audience.
different.
Possibly.
Yeah, maybe not the right audience.
I don't know. I've heard good things about both of them, so I'm really
Yes.
excited. I'm seeing Oppenheimer next Monday.
Okay, nice.
I
will say to
because
people,
the group is super specific. We have to go to a certain theater with the whole whatever.
yeah.
That's why it took so long.
I will say with Oppenheimer, it is a biopic. It's not like a war film. It's not a documentary either. It's very much centered on the main guy who created the atomic
Oppenheimer?
bomb. Yes.
All right.
So just bear that in mind. It is long, but I thought it was really well paced. So
I just know I'm going to need all the snacks.
that's fair.
I didn't even know it was 3 hours.
It is 3 hours.
I learned that on Friday, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
Did you print out the time?
Is there an intermission?
No.
Yeah, like could you if there is a moment in time where I'm like, I need to sneak out real quick and go use the ladies? When
I'm
can I do
sure there's
this?
a Google guide to that. I'm
There-
sure
Oh my
someone
There's
has.
a
gosh.
website that does that.
Oh, I'm
That's
sure.
a
Yeah,
genius
it is.
idea.
Jay
Good
wants
on
to know,
them.
did you see it in 70
I did
millimeter
not.
IMAX?
No, with the what is it, 5 mile long?
11
11
mile
miles. That's
long.
insane. But no, I did not. I just saw it in a normal theater because that was the one that's 5 minutes from my house. So
Yeah. See that?
convenience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I have to wait
Yeah.
because that's a requirement apparently.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at it. It is what it is. It's okay. Hello said I have sad news. This will be my last show, and to that I say no.
I really hope that's a joke.
No.
Hello, because I don't know that I can do this without you. So.
Yeah.
We can't.
The answer is just no.
Your name is hello. It's not goodbye. Like
exactly.
It's not.
Listen, I know I threaten you all the time to make you goodbye, but the answer is just no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. Let's get into today's show. We are going to be hosting a MailBag Monday.
Okay.
And we stole a few things from the D-Bag show.
Let's
so
do it.
thanks, D-Bags. Appreciate ya.
My mailbox, always something interesting in my mailbox. I try to get to everything in my mailbox, and then once in a while there's a letter that makes me go wow, wow. My mailbox, always something interesting in my mailbox.
Mega Ran with the mailbox song. Thank you.
This sounds just like exactly what Derek sounds like.
Mhm.
Let me make this very clear to the PHNX D-Backs crew. If you don't do your bit that you have done every Monday since you've come into existence, we will steal it. And they said that they weren't doing it today because they have a post game. They're doing it Tuesday. It's ours now.
There we go.
Suck it, Mayor. Suck it, Jesse.
Wait.
Suck it, Sean.
Hold up.
Why do people always?
He's not the mayor.
Well, that's
Oh,
true.
Didn't he
right.
just
Change-
get kicked out?
Yes.
Former mayor
There you
of
go.
PHNX,
Thank
Derek
you.
Montilla, can suck it as well.
Also, when are we going to do a vote for that? Because I feel like I'm going to throw my name in the hat.
I think Sean took particular
Sean
pain to
came
that.
out and just yelled, "Fuck you, Espo."
I think we will. What was your question? I totally forgot.
When are we going to do the mayor vote?
Sometime in August, I think we need to do it.
Okay.
Okay.
And I will be putting together quite the smear campaign.
Oh,
So.
boy.
Oh, I
Yes.
love that. Okay.
Wonderful.
All right. Mailbag Monday. We've got our first couple of questions here.
Mhm.
First one is from Christo. Said, how do you guys envision Vogel structuring the defensive scheme for this team around Ayton and in general? Any key / standout players that'll be supplementary focal points?
So I think this defense is going to lean heavily into switching. If you look at the way the roster is constructed, you have a lot of guys that can defend multiple positions. I think the Suns in the past did not use DA's mobility out on the perimeter quite enough in terms of switching. They had him in a drop a lot of the time. And I think maybe Vogel will be able to, if he's able to tap into a more focused, engaged DA, that's a guy that should be able to hold his own on the perimeter in switches as well. So I think with DA, you want his rim protection closer to the basket if that's what Vogel's able to tap into. But you look at the rest of the guys like Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, they'll probably be guarding anywhere from 1 to 3 on a given possession. Eric Gordon is a guy he's 6'3", but he's built to defend threes and even fours in a pinch. We all know Okogie and Goodwin are really good defenders with the wingspans and the deflections to be able to guard multiple positions. And Kevin Durant, he can guard up. He could be a small ball 5. He could guard 2 through whatever. So I do think that the Suns' defensive scheme is going to lean heavily into switching. He's going to throw a lot of different wrinkles and adjust based on what opponents are doing in playoff scenario. But I do think we'll see probably a lot more switching.
I mean, switchability makes sense especially with the wingspan of all these guys and stuff. But doesn't that counteract your point that they want DA to be more of a rim protector too? Because if you're switching that much, aren't you going to wind up with him out on the perimeter at times in this? Or are you thinking you switch with the other 4 and keep him more central?
Yeah, I think you try to keep him more central, but you do acknowledge that in some situations he's going to get switched on the perimeter. And that's okay when you have a fellow 7-footer like Kevin Durant and his secondary rim protection. That's one thing that we saw a little bit last season, but probably not enough just because he got 10 regular season games before the playoffs started. So I think we'll probably see a scheme that's more tailored to taking advantage of the fact that, hey, if DA is on the perimeter, we have another guy that can block shots at the rim. And Drew Eubanks fits that description as well.
And if Keita Bates-Diop ends up playing alongside of them, like his wingspan gives him an advantage in that area as well. It's 7'3".
Yes. We've talked a lot about Vogel's impact on DA, but I actually kind of wonder, and I know KD's older now, but is there some kind of benefit defensively that we're going to see for KD too, where Vogel puts him in different positions to succeed in this defensive scheming in ways that maybe we haven't seen? Because he's sneaky good with all that on all these different positions. I kind of wonder that.
It's entirely possible, especially because we saw with the Warriors how locked in defensively Kevin Durant was. We saw it in fits and spasms with the Nets because they just had so many guys that were hurt or out for whatever reasons. But here in Phoenix, I think if this team wants to be good, they need their core 4 to be locked in defensively. We've seen it from Booker. We're assuming that'll happen with Beal now that he's on a winning team. And we've seen it with Kevin Durant. We've seen it with DA. So I think if you have all those guys on the same page, you're going to be able to tap into that. And I think Kevin Durant will be able to shine even more defensively than he has in a while.
Yeah.
All right. Crystal also wanted to know what will be the most critical aspects of Ayton's game for him to work on this summer to take that next leap, either offensively or defensively.
For me, I'd love to see him go back and watch some of that tape where he was his most effective defensively and try to understand what's happened. And is it all effort? Is it some other aspects that have changed? I want to see him completely dive headfirst into what Frank Vogel wants him to accomplish defensively and really live and breathe that. Because to me, the defensive end is going to unlock the offensive end from an aggressive standpoint. If he's locked in, he's making plays, he's kind of the vocal leader in part on defense, I think that will give him more confidence on the offensive end. And to me, I don't know how much of DA's offense is going to change at this point, but what he can do on the defensive end can dramatically change and have a bigger impact than we saw last season.
Yeah, defensively is where they need him to be better than last season. I don't know if there's a particular skill other than just saying general rim protection, because he has the athletic tools, he has the length, the size, the strength to be a good rim protector, and we've seen it in the recent past during that finals run in particular and that whole season. This year, in terms of something he can specifically work on, like I've been hammering this home for months now, people are probably sick of hearing me say it, but like just 1 to 2 dribbles when you catch the ball in the short roll, because every catch that he gets there, he's either taking 1-2 step and going to the basket, which is good, or if he doesn't have the forward momentum, he's pulling up for a floater or a mid-range jumper. I would love to see him just take one power dribble, 2 power dribbles to close that gap between himself and the low man, initiate some contact, get to the foul line, finish strong, dunk on somebody. Like, that's all it needs is 1 to 2 dribbles, and that unlocks a whole bunch of different stuff, because we've seen his post moves that it's pretty much limited to the hook shot. We've seen his dribble move in the paint. It's pretty much a spin move that defenses know is coming. So I would love to see him just be able to add that to his game. Maybe even like a Euro step in the middle of there would be great when he catches that ball in the short roll, because that would open up so much for him.
Part of me feels like a lot of that has to do with confidence within that area, because sometimes it just feels frantic.
Yeah.
If it makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's just like, just believe in yourself, have confidence in what you're going to do, put the ball on the floor and go. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about 1 to 2 dribbles. We're not asking you to go coast to coast here, DA. Like, you can do it.
And we've seen flashes of it, because like I said, that dunk that he had on Michael Porter Jr. in the 2021 playoffs was where he caught the ball in the short roll, put 1 or 2 dribbles and just dunked all over him. And we were like, oh shit, like this could be happening now. And we've only seen it every now and then. So I would love to see him continue to work on that and add that to his game for next year.
Yeah, give me the old school power dribble and use your size. I kind of hope Drew Eubanks in practice kind of helps in that mentality too. No knock on Jock or Bismack, but I feel like Drew Eubanks in practice will try to put a body on DA. Will try to dunk on him. Those kind of things where maybe just that competition ups it a little bit when it comes to game time. But really, I still think defensively, if he gets engaged, he's hitting against guys, he's rejecting shots, that maybe that makes the physicality on the offensive side a little bit more, because I still feel like the times we've seen him very locked defensively is where we get those moments like the Michael Porter Jr. dunk and those kind of things. So hopefully it goes hand in hand this year.
Yeah. All right. Spencer wants to know, if the Suns aren't done with the roster and they decide to cut Ish Wainwright, who do you think the Suns could target via small trade or free agent signing?
I'm just going to say it. It's James. No, I'm just kidding.
Should we start with a disclaimer here? I think we could do that and then move on to maybe some others. But because I know that the TJ McConnell shenanigans popped up again today, and I call them shenanigans just because the odds of them happening in the near future are pretty slim. But Mark Stein did report that the Suns are interested in McConnell. We've heard this a couple times over the last few weeks. And while I believe that the Suns are interested in McConnell, it's just going to be a few extra steps to acquiring him if it does reach that point. Like, if the Suns decide to cut Ish Wainwright, McConnell is not somebody they could target with a small trade or a free agent signing. It would have to be a lot more math involved here.
Right, because he makes about $9 million. And if you look at the state of the roster, if you're looking for just a straight up trade for McConnell, you can't trade guys until
anybody
into the
that
season.
You've signed recently.
Any recently signed guys until well into the season. And even at that point, to make the salary match, like outside of the big four, your next biggest contract is Eric Gordon at $3 million. So you're going to have to stack 3 or 4 players to trade for one guy. I like McConnell. I don't like him that much to give up, a third of your rotation basically. So I think one thing that our friend David Nash on Twitter pointed out was they do have those trade exceptions. And while you cannot combine them to absorb a larger salary, they could use a trade exception to bring in a guy in that $6 million range and then combine him with one other player to get the math right on a McConnell trade. You'd have to do that later on in the season, obviously. But something to keep an eye on if they really do like McConnell that much. Stein also said in the piece that McConnell hopes to stay in Indy. So if you want to see McConnell in a Suns jersey, I mean, he doesn't have say over it, but you're probably hoping that Indy also has a bad season as well.
Yeah. I think you could look at Boston's Peyton Pritchard. If they really do want to move him, and there's been rumblings in this offseason that that's the case, that's $2.6 million. You could do it with the trade exemption, throw a second or a couple seconds. If the whole thought here is that they want to actually still add at the point guard spot, which the only name we've heard is TJ McConnell since everything else has gone down. I think Peyton Pritchard's the younger, cheaper version that you hope becomes a McConnell type at some point. So that's a name I think you, and obviously pure speculation. There's no sources. I'm not claiming anything. That kind of makes some sense, just connecting dots.
I personally feel like this is it. This is the roster that we will start the season with. I don't anticipate any additional movement in this offseason. I do think the Suns set themselves up, though, nicely, given the situation that they're in, to be able to have a little bit of flexibility during the season. Whether that's, like you said, signing somebody with the TPE, packaging it with one of the guys that they picked up this offseason. Of course, not until December something, the 15th, right?
Yeah.
And then making some movement in that area, or just using the TPE ahead of the trade deadline, because it does expire at the end of the regular season. So basically the trade deadline to bring in somebody based off of more knowledge that they have throughout the regular season of what they maybe have a hole that they need to fill or something of that sort.
Yeah.
Random question for you on the exception. And you may not know this, so I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot. But in theory, could you trade the exception in a 3-team deal to one team? Could they move a player to the other, and could you take a player back? Because,
I mean, I think it depends on what the salaries are, but as long as it can be involved in a 3-team deal, as long as the player that you're getting back for the trade exception fits within that salary range. I don't know if you could then trade it to another team, though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I would need to look
just
into
wondering.
that. Yeah. But I like, we put together a list of like 30 names that would fit last week for trade exception guys. I do like Daniel House Jr. He's a guy that picked up a $4.3 million player option. I'm not sure if the Sixers were particularly excited about that, considering he didn't really play for much for them in the playoffs. And I will always selfishly include Jared Vanderbilt in there. He makes $4.7 million. He was great for them in the regular season, but in the playoffs, he didn't get a lot of run because his lack of offense kind of glued him to the bench. So if that continues in the regular season or the Lakers season goes downhill, definitely a name I will be bringing up obnoxiously later on.
Oh boy, can't wait. We did get a super chat from Frank. Thank you, Frank. Sent us a couple bucks. Said, I'm expecting nothing less than playoffs. Frank V.
I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, something went horribly wrong. So
agreed.
We're probably in a studio with things burning down.
I don't want to know what. I don't even want to try and envision what could happen.
Dear
to keep
Lord.
It's injuries, and that's
Frank. We're not doing that
on all 3 of the big guys.
Just kidding. We probably will in a later question. All right, next question. Pessimistic Suns? Get it?
Pessimistic Suns.
No.
Pessimistic
Suns.
Okay.
Right?
Pessimistic Suns.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little tongue twister for us here. They want to know if the Suns are top 2 in the West by February, are all 3 of Durant, Book, and Beal going to Indy for the All-Star game? In theory, yes.
First of all, what was that Southern twang that we got?
Gerald, I thought we have already
little
agreed.
Tongue twister.
We've already agreed that every once in a while it just comes out. I don't understand where the accent comes from.
It's a twister, Auntie.
I don't know why.
You get possessed by this character on that book cover.
Yes.
Listen.
She just has to break out.
It's the weirdest thing my whole life. It's been like that my whole life. Like when I when I first moved away from Sierra Vista, I moved to California and everyone was like, where are you from? I feel like you have an accent. And I was like, no, I don't. But apparently it just slips in and out sometimes with certain things that I say. I don't
Sierra
know.
Vista accent.
I mean, I have
Sierra
family in
Vista
Texas,
twang.
so maybe it just comes from them. Like there's just, I don't know. Listen.
I'm sorry,
It
what
is
was the
what
question?
What was the question? Can we put that back up? Oh, that's it. If the Suns are top 2 in the West by February, are all 3 of Durant, Book, and Beal going to Indy for the All-Star game?
They should be, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I think Book and Durant probably will, just because of the sheer star power. I don't know if you can squeeze all 3, because the West has so many All-Stars, and Bradley Beal has put up numbers on the Wizards for years, but because they weren't good, he only has, I think, 3 All-Star selections to his name. So
But we looked
they'd
it
have
up.
to
The
be.
last one was 2021, right?
Yes, but he also averaged 31 points per game that season. So it'll be tough for Beal to get in, I think.
Why are we punishing the best stars in the NBA by saying the one break that you're getting in this season, you have to go to Indiana?
I mean,
Seriously, Indiana in February.
Yeah, that's
I don't want to go to Indiana most times, but February I really don't want to go to Indiana.
I will say I don't mess with Indy. Okay, I don't.
Okay.
I don't mess with Indiana.
Okay.
That's on record.
Right.
I'm not a fan. But I will give credit to them for having the indoor walkways. It goes from building to building, so you don't have to go outside.
That's good.
And it's not every building, but it's some of them, and that still gets brownie points in my book. We need those here in Phoenix.
It's like living in a hamster thing. Like you can walk from tunnel to
basically.
All cold weather All-Star games. I had to go to New York when it was record cold in February. I had to go to Toronto when it was record cold in February. In New York, I walked 24 blocks in it, not knowing how damn cold. Anyways, the question.
That's tough.
If they're a top 2 team in the NBA, I think they're getting 3. And it's either DeAndre Ayton is surprised so much that he sneaks in as the 3rd, or it's Bradley Beal, because all eyes are going to be on this team this year. National media is going to be looking to either hold them up or tear them down. So I think if they are a top 2 team in the league, they're getting 3 in.
You really think so?
I don't know.
Yes.
I think
You're putting so much faith in everybody for that one.
To get 3 in, they'd have to be the number 1 team in the NBA, I feel like.
I don't think that they would be able to pull that one off. Liz says it's a popularity contest, and it absolutely is. But even beyond that, it's just I don't know. It just feels a little wonky to me with the way that it goes about these days.
If KD's good, he's getting voted in.
Yeah, KD for sure.
I think
Book he hasn't been a starter.
No, I don't think he will be. He
hasn't been a starter. He's only been voted one
technical
times.
time.
Yeah.
Look, but Beal's advantage is he's going to have everybody in Washington voting for him because I think they still love him.
Yeah.
This wasn't we hate this guy for getting out. They looked at the situation and probably went, I'd be doing the same thing as this guy, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll have Suns fans wanting to vote like crazy. I think if he's having a really good season, this team is, he could even get voted in depending on how well they're playing. And then Book, I think, gets in because coaches, players, they respect the hell out of him. So if they're a top 2 team in the NBA, and think of all the national games they're going to have. They're going to have, we haven't even seen the schedule. That comes out probably middle of the next month. But I guarantee the number of national games is going to blow our freaking mind.
Oh, yeah.
So
there will be a lot of exposure, and this is not quite the same as like the 64-win season when we were pushing McHale and DA to a lesser extent to be all-stars. Like, obviously, Beal is more of an established star at this point than either of those two were then. I think it's going to be, there's so many talented young players in the league now, and there's only, especially when it comes to backcourt slots, those are pretty limited. So I don't know. We'll see. But if I do think they need to be the number 1 team in the West to get 3 in for sure.
Yeah.
Now, how many would play in the game? Totally different story. Wow. I could see Katie and Book finding ways to get out of playing in it, but I think all 3 of them could get in, technically be named All-Stars.
I don't know. I just wouldn't put money on that one, personally.
Someone did say it would be cool if the Suns had the best record in the West and Frank Vogel got to coach the All-Star game in Indy. Yeah, that would be cool.
It would be fun.
And have to coach LeBron.
Listen, I wouldn't put my money on it, but if you want to put your money on something, download the BetMGM Sportsbook app because it's a heck of a lot of fun. They've got a bunch of cool promotions going on over there. And of course, we've got one for you guys as well. So if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, when you sign up, make sure you use that bonus code PHNX. There's a few different offers depending on where you live. But for our Arizona audience, you place your first bet offer and you receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if it loses with BetMGM. Again, just make sure you use that bonus code PHNX. You can check out the show notes for full details. And now you can listen to Shane talk about the disclaimer.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 Nevada, 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa, 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan, 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., Kansas, Nevada, New York, or Ontario.
And of course, a reminder that our friends over at OG's are doing some really cool things. They do not miss when it comes to flavor and effect. And right now, they've got a limited edition flavor on the shelves, pink lemonade. Make sure you get your gummies while you still can in that flavor. You can check out OG's online at ogsbrands.com or on Instagram at OG's Brands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary, but you must be 21 years or older to purchase. OG's has a product for whatever it is that you are looking for, whether it's just really flavorful gummies. They've got the mixed bag right now, which you get all the fruits and all the creams. If you're looking for something a little more low key, you could find like the Happy Balance gummy that comes in the strawberries and cream. If you're looking for sleep or rest and relaxation, they've got the aqua berry flavor, sleep edition, which helps with that, and a whole bunch of other things. So make sure you guys check them out. Especially because summertime, we're staying inside. Remember?
I want a mystery bag.
I've literally yelled at you guys about this for the last 3 weeks. We're staying inside.
Well, you can't go outside with the long sleeve black and the jeans. It's just not doable.
We're staying inside.
Yeah.
We live here now.
We live here now.
I do want the mystery bag, though, where you don't know what flavor. They are all just the same color. You don't know what the flavor is. Obviously, you know what kind and what dose, but just the flavor is a mystery.
Like Airheads.
Emma's like, but I have my
flavor.
favorites and I want those ones.
No, I don't think that the mystery bags are like that.
Oh,
you want different milligrams?
No.
Okay.
Like I think that they're like the same color as they would be if it was like it's normal.
Like you can tell.
Yeah.
The mixed bag.
I don't want to know. I'm saying I want a mystery bag where they make them all the same color.
Right.
The mixed bag, you know what they are, but
just close your eyes.
well, that's
Okay.
fair too.
Yeah.
So Eric in the chat said, hot take, if Ayton fixes himself, we get 4 All-Stars. And then somebody also had mentioned, Chris did. Chris said, if this was the Warriors, all 3 would be locked in and maybe Ayton would get in if he did great too.
Yeah, if we were in a bigger market, for sure.
Look, somebody brought it up. I said it with Beal. Katie and Beal bring their own fan bases. Book and to a much lesser extent, DA are going to have are the ones that would have more trouble just because, I don't know, man, exposure is going to be huge. This is all a
It
popularity
is. It
contest. If this team's doing things we haven't seen offensively since like the Warriors or their own thing that's exciting, all bets are off.
Plus the TV deal.
Yeah.
Suns games will be broadcast more here in Arizona. That could help.
Yeah, all bets are off, I think, once with the exposure this year.
I mean, basically what we need to do is take a page out of the Warriors book and just get some K-pop.
Yes. One K-pop tweet.
Hey,
Yeah,
or
like
TikTok.
get some K-poppers on our side.
the Suns do
Send all of their people. And we got 4.
the Suns do have a new marketing person. So
There we go.
Maybe they know somebody in the K-pop world. I'm just saying, listen, if you are somebody who knows somebody in that world, make a phone call, send a message.
You know what? We're gonna make it our
Do us a
personal
favor.
goal to find out some celebrities, K-pop or otherwise, to help push these Suns this year.
It's just so hard now because I feel like celebrities, like the following isn't as diehard maybe as it once was, where like back in the day, I feel like if you had a celebrity tweet to their fan base to do something, that fan base actually like came through and did it. I feel like it doesn't happen like that as much anymore.
I'll say this. I got 1 degree of separation between me and Ryan Reynolds and me and Emma Stone. So maybe we can make something work.
There you go.
Okay, let's do it. All
I
right.
can't, but maybe.
D's Sons said 2 questions. Lindsay, did you get the Suns bucket hat yet? Nope. Still looking for some good bucket hats to add to my rotation, including a Suns one. And then the second question, Espo, what is your favorite old school NBA game and go-to Suns player?
Okay, so this is
Like
It's not
video
the
game
video-
or like a
Yeah.
historical game?
I
that
assume we're
happened?
talking. video
I
game.
read this as like video game.
I did too. NBA Jam is goated, and that will forever be my favorite basketball game because I was in the right age in the right era of Suns basketball to play that. Barkley is the guy you play with, and you run him to the corner three and run him back slightly, have him shoot it. You're gonna be good. But the OG basketball game was Bird versus Jordan, and I played it. This is how old I am, on a computer.
Oh yeah,
and they had dunk contests and 3-point contests in that shit, and you had to hit like AB and arrow buttons to do the dunk right, and that is my OG GOAT basketball game that none of you know anything about. So.
All right.
Nice.
We got one from Christian. They said, are injuries a legitimate concern this season? And if so, do you think the front office built a roster that can withstand significant injury/injuries? I think injuries are always a legitimate concern, just in the nature of sports, because it's one of those things that sometimes you have freak accidents that happen. Cough, cough, Kevin Durant, game 1 that he was supposed to be in Phoenix last year. I think, though, with this team, I would say if one of the big three goes down, I think you'll be fine. I think you could fall a few spots, but I think overall you'll be fine. If two of them go down, I don't know that there's any team that if two of their stars go down would be able to really you'd be fighting to keep your head above water. And I feel like most teams would be that way.
I think it depends on which of the three. If KD gets injured and misses significant time, I think it impacts you more than if Booker or Beal does, because Booker or Beal can slide into the other one's spot. KD is a different beast, and I don't know that Keita Bates-Diop or any of these other guys that you got can slide in there and really take on what you need there. Like Booker or Beal gets hurt, Eric Gordon steps up, Jordan Goodwin. There could be patches there. I don't see if KD goes out for significant time how you're making that, honestly.
I mean, I think they'll still be fine if, like Lindsay said, one of the three goes down. Like if it's Booker or Beal, the other one can take on more of a scoring and playmaking load. If Kevin Durant goes down, I do think KBD is good enough defensively to help make up for that as long as he's hitting threes. And it would put more pressure on the other two to produce offensively. I don't know. I feel like, yes, injuries are always a big concern when you have a team that's constructed this way. A lot of people keep calling the Suns top heavy. I don't see that. I see their top obviously has the majority of the contract money and the majority of the production, but I do think if only one goes down, they'll be able to survive. But like Lindsay said, there are a couple of weird teams, like maybe the Heat, that if they, Bam and Jimmy went down, they'd probably find a way to just keep winning games because Eric Spoelstra's a freak like that. But like other than that, there aren't a lot of teams that if you took one or two of their top guys, they would still be at the same level. Maybe Milwaukee, but I don't know.
Well, if it's Giannis, no.
Drew and Chris and Bobby Portis and Brooke Lopez, it's still a good team. But yeah, you're obviously dropping off no matter who you are if you lose your best player.
Yeah, I think it depends on your definition of okay.
You're
not missing the playoffs if you have one of these guys, but
in the playoffs, if you're missing any of those guys, you're screwed.
Yeah, but I'm saying you're not missing the playoffs if you miss one of those guys. You're okay that way, but obviously injuries depend on what's the severity. How long is a guy out? Injuries are a concern with this team because if you look at KD, Beal, and Book, they've all missed significant time over the last 3 years. But it depends. If they're not all missing at the same time and it's, hey, guys out for 10 games here, but the other two are there, you'll be all right. To your point, it all comes down to, are you healthy in the playoffs? Are you ready in the playoffs? Have you played enough in the regular season where you have a rhythm? We saw that with KD. Plays 9 total games because of the ankle injury, and you're not ready for the playoffs because you just don't have a rhythm with these guys. All sorts of things.
And this is a team that over the last few years has recognized the value and learned the value of peaking at the right time.
Yeah.
We saw during the 64-win season, they were just cruising. They were making it look easy. And then when it got hard in the playoffs, the script totally changed. I think last year we saw them pace themselves a little bit more. I think we'll see something similar this year. And if you look at Beal, you look at Book, you look at KD over the last few seasons, they've missed anywhere from 10 to 20 games apiece. So Beal has said that a lot of that stuff was nagging injuries, and maybe on a more competitive team, he would have played through some of them and not rushed to try and get back. But you can probably expect them to miss maybe double-digit games unless they all have a really blessed season from an injury perspective. And that should probably be factored into our expectations in terms of how many games they win in the regular season. But like you said, the most important thing, just be healthy and just be out there long enough to build chemistry so that when the playoffs roll around, you're healthy, you're ready, and you have that chemistry together.
16 wins. That's all that matters.
Sly in the chat said load management AF. Do you anticipate them being a little more open to quote unquote load management? It may not look the same as a load management. They may not sit people based off of quote unquote rest, but low key load management throughout the season to an extent, especially when we're playing a not as competitive team.
It could be back to back.
Maybe. I think it'll depend though, because I think last year with Book, like the biggest thing was he tried to come back too soon for that Christmas Day game and made it worse.
They should have just told him straight up no.
Right. And that's the line that they'll need to draw with these guys. Like, hey, we got bigger ambitions. Like, I know you want to play on Christmas or for this game or that game or back-to-backs or whatever, but like, we need you for this time of year, so don't rush yourself back. So we might see maybe an injury take a little bit longer, maybe the sort of Chris Paul effect where he's day-to-day and we see him a week or two after the fact.
What I think is you'll see guys, in particular Book, less prone to try to push it, because remember how bad they were when he got injured?
Yes.
He had no backstop where if he wasn't out there, he could believe in these guys until McHale started picking it up like a month into that whole thing, or 3 weeks. So I think he rushed back because that was his instinct to try to, save the team in some way. When you have KD, Bradley Beal there with you and a bench that actually is deep, I don't know that we'll see him. I hope he doesn't get injured like that, but if he does, I don't think he's going to push the envelope as much. But one thing I think we'll hear more of is actual answers when you ask what's going on with a guy. Because Frank Vogel doesn't strike me as the guy that's just going to give you a bullshit vague answer just because, well, that's just the way we do it. I feel like we'll have a better idea of what's actually going on with these guys.
Hopefully. We'll see.
All right. Jay wants to know what led each of us to pursue a career around the NBA. Story time. Gerald, you want to start?
I think we make Lindsay start for once.
Yeah.
Why do I always got to start?
Always.
You never start.
Never. Go ahead,
This
Lindsay.
is facts. I don't. So I always wanted to tell stories in some capacity, right? So I initially, like, this type of thing that we're doing right now, even team reporters and all that type of stuff didn't really exist when I was not really, it just didn't exist
1975 was a tough time for those of us in media.
I know, right? God, I remember the good old days in the 70s. Missed that.
Tell you what.
So I initially was like, oh, well, then I'll be an actor. Like, that's great. That's cool. Let's do that. So I graduated high school early, moved to LA when I was 17 and tried doing that whole thing. And while I did do a couple things and it was a lot of fun, I more so chalked that up to like my quote unquote college years.
Okay.
Because it was just fun, right?
What kind of stuff? Like ads or
stuff on record?
No. Like just like I didn't take it that seriously. Like I wasn't putting as much into it as I should have because I went from Sierra Vista to LA, met a group of friends that I absolutely adored, and then we just kind of did like what you would do in college, like the normal stuff. And then I hung out there for a few years, came back to Phoenix, had to figure out exactly what like my next career was going to be. And I was like, I still want to tell stories. Like that's still the goal. I know I love sports, played sports growing up my whole life. Didn't want to be in news or anything of that sort because gosh, how could you? No, hard pass. And so I was like, well, let's do sports and see if we can kind of carve out some space in that area because things were starting to change. Like Twitter came around, social media was being used really differently. And so I was able to get I feel like I was one of a handful of people in the Valley who did kind of storytelling and content creation for teams. Like I was one of the first ones who was able to actually do that as like a real role, not a in addition to role, which I feel like you kind of had, Espo. Like Yours
Yeah.
was like added on
And-
to your plate as things started to kind of turn around. And then
Yeah.
once people were like, no, this is an important thing, we wanted to do it. And I always just wanted to end up with the Suns in Phoenix. Like they were the last team that I got with. But the Suns were always the goal because I had the most fun watching the Suns. And like I didn't grow up in a basketball family, but I do have some memories as a kid of the Suns being the biggest like eye opener to me. Like when we got to go to games or whatever, it was the biggest wow factor.
Mhm.
And I also love the culture around the NBA more than the most out of all the big leagues.
You,
Yeah.
you
So
want
the
a fun
Suns were
fact?
always the goal.
Nice.
You want a fun fact? I hated doing those things on camera with the Suns because it wasn't me. Like this is more me,
Mhm.
but some of the on-camera things, and I said 2-3 years before I left, I want to hire Lindsay Smith to do this because I don't want to have to do it anymore. And I think she could handle it. And I never got it approved, but I'm glad.
It is
glad
interesting
you
though,
wound up
because I
there.
know I had conversations like by the time you were there, like there was always things that were kind of like, let's talk, let's see if we can. And then you and I literally just swapped.
Yep. Well, I went to corporate. I didn't swap with you in
I mean,
sports, but
okay,
you
you
stepped
left,
in.
I came in.
Yeah, they bloodlet a lot there, and then you came in and worked with a new group of people. So you can go, Joe.
Yeah. So, I mean, since I was like 2 years old, I grew up watching VHS tapes of like Grant Hill and Michael Jordan and all those NBA highlight mixtapes that they would play. My parents said I was a very finicky child, and whenever they would put on basketball, I would just sit there and shut up. So it became
very
a
much
habit.
the same.
Yeah, so very much the same now.
Nothing's changed.
29, 30 years later. But I was just always in love with the game of basketball. My parents got me one of those little Fisher Price hoops. I was always dunking on it and playing basketball from a young age. So my dream was always to be an NBA player. And at a certain point in high school, you realize, hey, I'm not big, strong, athletic, good enough to play at the next level. So I had an English teacher that I was always a good student, but she kind of cultivated my love for writing. And I feel like it was a much more articulate way for me to express myself because I was kind of a shy kid for the most part. And still to this day, I feel like I can express myself way more articulately with writing than I can in person. So
We've actually considered replacing you with AI, where you just type your thoughts.
just let me
in,
sit
yeah.
behind the chair and I'll type out what I want to say. But yeah, so I figured at that point in time, like I was applying for colleges. The Walter Cronkite School here in Arizona was obviously a very good journalism school. And I was like, okay, if I can't play professional basketball, I might as well write about it and tell their stories and live vicariously through them. So I came out here for a college visit. They told me that I could get my bachelor's and my master's in 4 years as part of the honors college. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I started writing for a website called Hoops Habit. Wasn't paid back then. It was just to try and practice my craft. We got picked up by the Fansided Network, and I worked for them for 7 years, started covering games, and it all just kind of spiraled together at the same time.
We've talked about how I've wanted you wherever I wound up, but the CEO of Fansided was the guy that was my college roommate, started a local website here. He joined Fansided after that as
really?
a coder, and then became the co-CEO. I
didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
Small world
That's
in
funny.
that. For me, I'll give the abridged version because my history is much longer than your guys's. But
Did you just call yourself old?
I'm old. I
At least it wasn't me. I
you
didn't
know,
do it. I called us old earlier. So
I
we were
was
fighting.
5. I was 5 when I realized I wasn't going to be playing. I wasn't going to be playing professionally in the NBA. But
That's a tough realization for a 5-year-old.
No, it's not that tough. I just have never been athletic. Surprise!
5 is really
surprise.
early.
It's very
Yeah,
early
yeah,
into your career.
I was very self-aware. All right, not so much now, but back then.
Like alarmingly so for a child.
But I always loved sports, and I fell in love with sports radio in this town when again, to make it old, when it actually started here, like in the 90s, and just really loved the way you could storytell, could discuss. I was a big sports nerd, so it was a cool way to interact with others because, that's just the way you did it. I used to play bowl all the time in the summer, sweating my ass off in 118 weather, drinking from the green hose. I was like, look, I want to do this. I knew since I was 10, I wanted to do this. Started in radio at 15, started a website. I always kind of knew I wanted to wind up with the Suns. Jeremy McPeak hired me, and then everybody pretty much knows the rest of it. I mean, you've seen most of it throughout the years, and I love this. This was always my dream. Not so much the video because I didn't want people to see me, but the whole talking hoops, talking sports. I love it, and it's always been a passion, and I'm honored to get to do this all the time. So.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We can't play the game of basketball, but we can go watch the game of basketball. And the best place to get tickets when the Sun season tips off is, of course, Game Time.
I can play, just not at an NBA level. Let's not get the
We
people
cannot
the
play
wrong
NBA
idea.
basketball, but we can go watch NBA basketball.
I'll still give anybody in the chat
There,
buckets,
you
but
happy?
not NBA players.
NBA basketball.
There we go.
More specific. Sorry, Gerald.
Just
I didn't
wanted-
mean to
just
discredit your street hoops game.
My average
your
hoop level.
LA fitness hoops game.
Thank you.
Not bad. But if you guys are looking for tickets to sporting events or concerts, Game Time is the place to get tickets without the stress. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, just create an account and redeem that code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. And also, nothing goes hand in hand like Suns basketball and Four Peaks beer. So make sure you are stocked up once the Sun season tips off. But of course, it's hot outside. Nothing cools you off more than an ice cold Four Peaks beer.
That is true.
And also, the brewery is super fun to hang out with. They've got all the drinks. They've got great food, good vibes, lots of TVs in there so you can watch whatever it is that's going on in sports. Check them out at Four Peaks Brew or at Four Peaks Pub. To keep up with the latest at Arizona's hometown brewery, you do have to be 21 or older to drink Four Peaks, and we ask you to please drink responsibly. Okay, a few more questions. MCG Blue said, we all, the national media may not, acknowledge the talent that James Jones and Matt Ishbia have assembled this offseason, but considering the time a new team needs to gel, regardless the talent, what should we expect the win-loss record to be in the first 20 games and then the first 40 games?
I'm going to say 13-7 for the first 20 games, and then I think they go 15-5 from there. So like 28-12 through the first half of the season.
Can I wait till I see the schedule?
So the schedule does make a big difference here too, I think.
It does.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 32-8 through 40.
Oh wow. Okay.
I don't
say
know.
what?
32-8.
We hitting the ground running.
And I think 4 or 5 of those losses come in the first
Okay.
in the first 20.
Okay.
And then I think they kind of crack. As long as, again, health is imperative in this, but I think they crack the code pretty early on how to offensively play, and that the defense will continue to get better throughout the season, but I think they'll play enough of it where they can outscore teams. So I'll go with that, 32-8.
So I was thinking like 30-10
Okay.
for the 40
Mhm.
mark. But then you made me feel self-conscious because you went lower, and I was
I'm
like,
sorry.
well,
He wants to hedge his
should
bet.
should I give them a little more leeway? Because usually in years past, I've always erred on the side of caution when it came to anything sort of win-loss record,
Right.
because I would rather be impressed than disappointed.
Sure.
So maybe I should lower that.
Well, look,
should we go 25-15?
I mean, it's whatever you want, but I'm just going to throw this out there. The Nuggets were 27-13 through the first 40 games of the season last year.
Or what?
27-13.
Don't compare me to the Nuggets. Like, don't give me
Why?
that.
Let's do that. They won
I
the
want to
title.
outdo them.
They won the title
I
last
want to win
year.
the
I'm
title
okay with that
and have
comparison.
the best regular season.
The Milwaukee Bucks, who I think finished with the league's best record, were 26-14 through 40 games.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like,
Okay, I'll say this. Through 40 games,
mhm.
they're 5 games better than the Nuggets by that point.
Through
Because-
40
listen,
games,
listen.
5 games better.
Because I think the Nuggets go through one of the championship hangovers.
Okay.
Like, and I don't think they feel like they need to get off to a hot start. Here in Phoenix, they have to, because the national narrative is this won't work. So I think this team has much more on their shoulders to try to get it done than anybody else.
5 is a lot of games.
I don't think they have to do anything. I mean, if you want to silence the media, sure, but like the media is gonna find their way to throw shade at the Suns regardless of what happens. They could be perfect. They could literally be 40-0. And the national media will be like, well, it's not sustainable.
Well, who have they played?
Exactly. Like, it doesn't matter what the Suns do. The national media is going to national media no matter what.
That what Lindsay just said is so perfectly Lindsay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I meant.
Well,
I meant in terms of the national media perception and talking points around the team. Like, I don't give a shit about that.
I'm just going to say, like, winning 75 to 80% of your games through the first half of the season is really hard to do. Like, even the year that they won 64 games, they were 31-9. So that would be worse than year 32 and very close to your original 30-10. I felt like I was being maybe optimistic with the 28-12, but
all right, fine. We'll go 20-20.
Screw it.
Stop it.
40-0.
Okay, there we go. Now we're
All right, now we're back to Aaron in the chat. He had asked if I used to post on Phoenix Sports Fans message board. I did. I've had an addiction to all this for far too long. So, sorry.
All right, next one up is from My Name is Fat Mike. They said this season, when the Suns need to go big, based purely off of what we know right now, who is the lineup? You were going to get all of them out there at the exact same time.
All 15 of them?
DA, KD, Bobo, Drew Eubanks.
Oh, wow.
Keita Bates-Diop.
Wow.
Let's do it.
Point KBD. Here we come.
All of them.
Or point
Give
Bobo.
me all the length.
I'm going chaos menu. It's Book, KD, Bobo, Drew Eubanks, DA.
Oh,
why not? Let's do this.
You want to win games?
I mean, you could put KBD in there instead of Eubanks if you want, but
Yeah, I'm going Durant, DA, KBD, Booker, Beal. That's already a pretty big lineup.
I know, and that could be our starting five. So, like,
I don't know how much bigger you need to go, to be honest with you.
and the other thing is at some point too, because we're assuming it's DA and Drew Eubanks are 1 and 2 in that 5 spot, right?
Yes.
So if you put the 2 of them out there, it's gonna have to be staggered to some extent. One of them will have to play more because you're not gonna bring both of them out and stick Bobo
Right.
in there. You know what I mean? If you're utilizing that type of a lineup, I wouldn't think that you would.
And I don't know
resort
when you
to
would
that.
need that lineup. Like Kevin Durant's already near 7 feet tall. He's a good rim protector. I feel like their starting lineup is already naturally big, even if they go with Okogie instead of KBD for that 5th spot.
I believe the answer is for shits and giggles, Gerald.
I mean, I would love to see Bobo, DA, and KD out there at once, just
Why not?
for the fun of it. But like in terms
Do
of
it for the
actual
content.
lineups where you need to go big, that's probably not the one you're going to turn to.
That only happens like late in the second quarter, just for like 2 minutes.
Right, just for the memes.
Yeah.
Just for the memes. All right. Before we get into the Booker Paul Pierce question that we teased in the headline of this show, let me remind you guys that your local Circle K is the best place to go for gas, coffee, beer, snack selections, you name it. Circle K has you covered. Make sure you stock up this summer at Circle K. And the Polar Pops, they stay colder longer, which is so desperately needed here in Phoenix when it's 101 million degrees outside. So make sure you're not missing out on all the great stuff that Circle K has. And right now, if you text PHNX to 31310 to join their SMS subscriber club, you're going to get a buy one, get one free offer on 32-ounce Polar Pops. Head to circlek.com/store-locator to find Circle K's near you. Also, it's summertime, and that means you definitely need sunglasses. So make sure you check out our friends over at Shady Rays. They're an independent sunglass company with world-class products, just as good as the expensive ones, but much more affordable. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use code PHNX for 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. All right. This last question came from Cool Ass Chuck. Said, Booker versus Paul Pierce before the Big Three was formed. Are they the same or different?
You know, I didn't know what to make of this when it was originally asked.
Mhm.
And then I started looking into the numbers of these two guys. First 8 seasons for both of them, right? And I believe that was pre-Big Three for both of them. Paul Pierce averaged 23.5 points combined over those 8 seasons. Devin Booker, 23.9 points. Rebounds goes to Paul Pierce, 6.5 to 4. But assists go to Booker, 4.8 to 3.9. 3-point shooting, Paul Pierce, 35.7%. Devin Booker, 35.6%. Field goal percentage goes to Book, 46% to 44. Steals, Paul Pierce has the edge at 1.7 to Book's 1. Highest career point average. Paul Pierce, 26.8 points. Devin Booker, 27.8 points. Both guys played on a 19-win team. Paul Pierce had a few more playoff runs than Devin Booker, but he did miss his first 3 years. The furthest he ever got in the playoffs was the Eastern Conference Finals up to this point. Book made a final, and neither won a title prior to having a big three.
Yeah.
So to me, it's actually crazy how close statistically they are.
Yeah, I think with Book, his career was a little bit slower of a start because of the talent that he had around him. I think the floor with Paul Pierce was maybe a little bit higher because he did have playoffs, and there was a point in his career before the Big Three happened where it was like, okay, is he just going to continue to be on the Celtics? Are they ever going to achieve anything with him? Is he maybe overrated because he can't take this team anywhere, or because this team is failing him and not giving him enough pieces to contend?
Is he just a scorer on
Right.
an average team? Yeah.
And then as soon as they got him the Big Three, we saw what they were able to do. A lot of people now think Paul Pierce is overrated a little bit historically, and I might agree with that. But look, if Booker winds up being a top 20 scorer of all time like Paul Pierce is, I can see some parallels. He's, believe it or not, the Celtics all-time leading scorer. Book is on that same trajectory. If he wins a title, he will have endured a lot of the same questions that Paul Pierce had to endure about how good he actually was, about whether he could be a winner and lead a team to the promised land. So I could see it. And like, Paul Pierce was a 10-time All-Star. I think if Book had better teammates around him earlier in his career, he'd probably have more than 3 to his name right now. But I do think Book's peak will be higher than Paul Pierce's was. Like, we know that both of them are mid-range masters, and Paul Pierce had some longevity to his career in terms of what he did for the Wizards. He hit that game winner in the playoffs, I think, for them off the backboard. But I do think Book has the chance to be this superstar athlete that stays with one franchise, that wins a title for this franchise, and ultimately maybe finishes with more accolades and a higher peak than maybe Paul Pierce's floor was.
I'm going to be really disappointed if at the end of all of it, Devin still has to deal with the questions around, was he, but is it empty stats, or was it all everybody else? He couldn't have been that guy. Because I don't think that that's fair. There are very few guys who can have a team like Devin had at multiple points in the beginning of his career and win an NBA championship with them, especially at the age in which he was asked to do it as well. There was just so much uncertainty. There was no stability early on in his career. I mean, he ran through head coaches like tissues.
5 coaches in 4 years.
Like, insane, absolutely insane. And people are out here asking, like, or putting the blame on Devin, and I just don't think that's fair. And I really hope that whatever comes from this new era of Suns basketball that we have moved into, of winning Suns basketball again with him on this team, I really hope that that narrative isn't the loudest one in the room. I understand that it's going to happen and the conversations will be had, but I hope that everyone can understand that you need more than one guy to win an NBA championship.
What's crazy to me is the discussion continues, but the second Devin Booker got any real semblance of talent around him, he went to the NBA Finals, right? Then he had the single greatest regular season the Suns have ever had with 64 wins, which is still an impressive number in NBA, not just in Suns franchise history, and that he'll put this to rest if they win in the next 3 years. But the comparison between him and Pierce in the first 8 years, I think it's a fair one to make. And I wasn't sure before I dove into it. I thought, oh, well, Paul Pierce probably has a better edge. He doesn't. So
Yeah, and I think, like I said, some people have said that Paul Pierce is overrated in recent years. He's certainly doing himself no favors lately with some of the things that he's saying as a talking head and whatnot. But I do think, like I said, the last couple of years of peak Devin Booker are going to be a lot higher than what Paul Pierce's was outside of just pure championship success. Because I think Booker's a better playmaker than Paul Pierce was. Despite not being quite as big. So the rebounding will obviously go to Pierce.
And Pierce wasn't that number one guy on those teams. That was KG.
Okay. Triple B has a good question. Does Pierce get the attention if he's not playing in the Boston market?
No.
If Paul Pierce is playing in Phoenix, is it even remotely close to the same thing?
No.
Used to be such a good place way back in the day.
Look, no. Paul Pierce benefited from East Coast, Boston, the heritage of that. The diehard fans there in Boston, I'm sorry, Boston fans are diehard in a weird way. Like there's probably very few cities that are diehard weird like Celtics fans. He benefited greatly from that.
Yeah, I think so. And from just the pure intrigue of the Boston 3 party, like putting that together, it was like, oh man, Paul Pierce finally has like legit superstars around him. I think that played into it because, like you said, Boston fans are very they're very all on board blue collar with their guys, and he was one of their guys. And as soon as he got help, they felt vindicated because we were like, yes, he finally got over that hump. And yeah, I think you're going to see that times 5 here in Phoenix, just very different because it's not a Boston, like you're saying.
Fun fact, Boston 3 party almost didn't happen. Suns were convinced they had KG to the point where they were working on graphics and stuff.
Yeah.
Seems like that happens a lot with the Suns.
Yeah, T-Mac was like that.
I would prefer for that
Steph
to
Curry
stop happening.
Yeah. Well, I think it has. I mean,
I'm
you got Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. What else do you want, Lindsay?
James Harden. Duh.
I set you up for that.
You're welcome. At least I knew where you were going. At least we were somewhat on the same page here.
Sources say Lindsay's annoying me now. Oh, no.
Well, we're almost done, so you don't have to hang out with me for too much longer. But we did get a super chat from Laking. Thank you so much. Said, do you guys think Book could win MVP from what we saw in the playoffs? This could be his best season in the league.
It could be, I think, in terms of a statistical standpoint, because if he is spending more time at point guard, he could be averaging anywhere from 6 to 8 or 9 assists a game. We just don't know what the playmaking load is going to look like in terms of how they divvy that up. But I feel like he's hit his prime like 2 years ago, probably, when he was a top 5 MVP candidate. I think we're going to see that for the next 3 or 4 years, probably, maybe even longer. So we are definitely in his prime. I think this could be a peak season for him. I think he will be in the MVP running. I don't know if he'll win it, but just because when you have 2 stars around you like that, people tend to diminish your personal accomplishments. It's just the name of the game with big threes, unfortunately. But I do think he'll be more of a contender this upcoming season than last year.
I think you hit the nail on the head. If they're good enough for Book to win MVP, I'm guessing Katie or Bradley Beal is having a pretty amazing season too, and they may split that kind of vote, which does them no good. Finals MVP though, if they make it, I could totally see that, because the way Book can dominate a series, like we saw last playoffs, I actually think, I won't say more realistic, but I think that's probably in the realm of possibility too. But I think MVP is going to be difficult.
All right, guys, we're going to round out the show with
some craziness,
some shenanigans. I don't even know.
Can I answer one final question that we got?
Of course.
Okay, so somebody in our Discord, and I forget who, asked if we are going to rebrand as Slash.
It should be Slash. You missed the opportunity.
We actually have new branding. I just want everybody to know we are now PHNX, and you can see the logo. on our social or on here. So just wanted to share that.
I know that this was like so much work put into the marketing and the design
tough.
of all of this. I get it.
I researched for a whole 45
I
minutes.
still
much
feel like you missed the mark with Slash. You should have been Slash. It was just like right there for you.
I could barely get our brand guy to let me bastardize our logo like that. You think I was going to be able to put it just a slash on there? Nice try, Lindsay.
Slash.
Nice try.
This is what we're all about here. All right, shenanigans to close out the show. Thankfully, this time they are not our own shenanigans. I don't know why this got Gilbert Arenas so heated, but he lost his mind about Bol Bol. Here's a snippet of what happened.
Have you ever seen a really beautiful girl?
Uh-oh.
Right? She's beautiful, got a bad attitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's not attractive no more because of her fucking attitude. Bol Bol is the pretty girl with a bad attitude.
Can't the pretty girl change her attitude?
If she ain't changed it, then she's the girl with the bad attitude.
Can she change
Has she?
Okay, so this is just a very small portion of what felt like 85 minutes of them just screaming back and forth about whether or not Bol Bol was this or that, which to me just kind of like seems like such a random thing to have that heated of an argument about.
It's Bol Bol.
Right?
And it's got to be the first time ever he's been compared to a pretty girl. Like I don't even understand what Gil is trying to accomplish in this. He's screaming. They're earlier in the rant. They're talking about Gilbert Arenas is talking about. Well, I got my chance, and I had to watch all these crappy guys playing for me. I'm like, what are you talking about? Then he gets to this, and I'm like, okay, so you're mad that a guy that got picked 42nd hasn't turned into something more? Like, I do not get this. It was just loud noises, like they said in Anchorman. So.
Yeah.
God bless the acoustics in that place and the sound editor, because they just gave him an empty room and were like, go ahead and shout as much as you want.
Let it all out.
Yeah, it seems like a very weird player to get so fired up about. Like, if he's passionate about it, cool, but I don't know.
Feel like there has to be some backstory that we don't know. There has to be there is no logical explanation in my brain that I can formulate that you would be this angry about where Bol Bol is in his career.
Did he like place
unless
a
there
bet?
was something else that went down, whether it was a bet
Like
or
bet on him to win Rookie
you
of
were
the
a
Year?
part of like the upbringing or the development or something, or you had some sort of investment monetarily or not in some capacity. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
He hated Manute Bol at some point.
I don't know, but like he went on for so long screaming about how Bol Bol doesn't work hard enough, or it's his work ethic that's in question here, and that there has been people behind the scenes who have said that they don't think he has what it takes, or he's not willing to put in the work or whatever. But it's like, we all, I think, have collectively come to the agreement that Bol Bol has upside, but is not a guaranteed thing.
Yeah.
No matter the situation. Like, you're taking a risk here.
I mean, as Hello says, he went ballistic.
I mean, he did, though.
Look, I mean, I shouldn't be getting up in arms about anybody getting really loud and ranting on a podcast.
I mean,
And the
fair.
only reason I'm upset with Gilbert is he's on my damn corner. That's my bit, Gilbert.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna compare Bol Bol to a pretty girl at any point on this show, but I don't know, man. Like, yeah, did Bol Bol like steal one of Gilbert's girlfriends or something? Like, this just seems totally irrational.
I don't know.
No idea, but that approach is untenable.
Emma just told Gerald to shut up.
Unbelievable.
So I think that means we got to leave now because Emma's over it. Emma said that's enough shenanigans for today. And it was, I think, only your first Bol Bol pun of the day.
Mm-hmm.
But Emma drew the line at 1. That's
We
it.
have a show. We have a daily
That's all
limit.
you get.
How do we keep saying it's the off season? We don't have enough to talk about. And then we go to an hour and 10 minutes every time.
I don't know, but shout out to all of you guys who continue to come through and hang out with us. during what would be considered the dead time of
We don't
the
use
NBA.
that word around here, Lindsay. It's the off season.
The off season
Thank you.
of the NBA. But listen, it's still a lot of fun. We have a blast hanging out with you guys. We hope that you guys have a blast hanging out with us as well. So thank you again for being here. We'll be back tomorrow with a show at 3 p.m. Until then, make sure you give the show a follow on Twitter at PHNX_Suns or follow it on X. Whatever you feel like calling the Bird app.
You can Z us.
Or the X app? Dang. I'm going to call it Twitter. It is what it is. It's
X
Twitter,
gonna
you guys.
give it to you.
You can follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. And of course, you can follow Espo at Espo. Espo, take us home.
These two took so long to answer today that my poor parents are sitting at the airport right now, and I've
You're
got to
gonna
go.
blame
Ahoy,
us?
ahoy.
Never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsay, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always rep the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G, no plan B. Always on the job, my team.